Hey guys, this is James with RogueDuelist Trade, and on this channel we talk about current and upcoming Yu-Gi-Oh product and whether or not you should invest your money in order to profit. It has been confirmed that we are going to be getting an upcoming core set that has already come out in the OCG, and that set is Lightning Overdrive. We're getting a lot of interesting cards within this set, a lot of legacy support. In today's video, we are going to be doing our very first risk analysis on this core product and decide whether or not the risk is high or low for investing in this product from a vending perspective. Now guys, before we jump in, I did hear you loud and clear that you would like me to open up pre-orders for Shipping Shields, which is a cardboard top loader alternative. I do plan on opening up pre-sales for Shipping Shields. Give me until about the end of the week. You guys can follow me on all of my social media platforms. That's where you can get updated as soon as pre-orders are available on RogueDuelistTrade.com. Also on RogueDuelistTrade.com, you guys can find merch for this channel and my second channel. And you guys can also buy Yu-Gi-Oh product directly from me for product that I have available. Also, if you guys would like to get Yu-Gi-Oh product at near wholesale rates, I highly recommend you check out the RDT Patreon in partnership with Pro Play Games. We can get you guys products like Lightning Overdrive and Ancient Guardians as low as $630 per case. Pre-order windows are very slim for Yu-Gi-Oh product. You have to pre-order at least 3 months ahead of time. Also, if you guys would like to see Yu-Gi-Oh skits from me, combo tutorials, all sorts of other Yu-Gi-Oh type of content, check out my second YouTube channel, which is RogueDuelist TV. All right, guys, without further ado, we're going to go into a deep analysis on Lightning Overdrive. There's a lot of content to cover. I am going to go through certain card information fairly quickly so that this video won't be way too long. The OTS launch date is May 12th, 2021. Market launch is May 14th, 2021. Again, those dates are always important because anytime at OTS launch and prior, some vendors are able to do pre-sales, but not all vendors that don't have brick and mortars, depending on what platform you're selling on. So usually after market launch, a lot more vendors are able to put up their inventory, thus value will drop significantly after pre-sale. So always take that into account. It's a 100 card set with likely 5 Starlight Rares. That's usually what we see for core sets. 10 secret rares, 14 ultra rares, 26 super rares, and 50 commons. I am not going to read all of these archetypes that are getting support. If you guys would like to see the full list, feel free to pause it. I did my best trying to capture it all in this slide. Now, before we jump into the analysis, keep in mind there's roughly 20 cards that we will be getting in the TCG that the OCG is not getting. And if you're not aware, OCG is for the Japanese Yu-Gi-Oh format, while TCG is for the Americas, Europe, I believe some parts of Asia, and also Oceania. All right, so our first metric that we are going to go over for our risk analysis is free agents semi-generic. I did change the title of this. This used to be generic meta cards. I wanted to use the same lingo as Konami. They use free agents, and that's basically cards that can be used in almost any decks or most decks. Now, if you guys are not familiar with these metrics, you can find definitions down in the description below, but they should be fairly straightforward. All right, so these are all the cards on one slide. I'm going to go into each of these in a little more detail, but these are all the cards that can be used either semi-generically or could be considered free agents and can be used in most any decks. Now, I would say that this to me is one of the most important metrics and one of the main factors that decides whether or not a product performs well is how many cards are meta relevant and can be used across any deck. Those are always going to be the cards that hold highest value and help the value for a product overall. First, we are going to go over some of the Rose Dragon cards that I believe could be used as a small engine semi-generically. First, you can look at Blood Rose Dragon. Honestly, you could just play this without the other cards that you saw in the previous slide. As I mentioned, I'm going to quickly paraphrase. Probably the best effect on this card is that you can banish all cards in both graveyards on its synchro summon, which is actually pretty good. And right now we are in a very graveyard dependent meta format. So I could see this having some level of play. I haven't seen it play tested yet, but it does have a level of promise. Next, I'm calling these out as somewhat semi-generic free agents, which is Rox Rose Dragon and Basil Rose Shoot. Rox Rose Dragon can search Basil Rose Shoot from deck to hand. Basil Rose Shoot can special summon a Rose Dragon monster from your graveyard to your field. Next, I'm going to go over some of the Zexal cards that I feel could be a pretty decent engine within a lot of different strategies. This is one of the new Rank Up Magic cards. This is Rank Up Magic Zexal Force. Notice Zexal in its name. That's very important. So you can target any Xyz monster and special summon a monster from your extra deck that's an Xyz monster that's one rank higher. Now that monster does have to be a Utopia or ZW monster, but what I like about this card is that you can use any Xyz monster. So this can be used in most any decks if you want to play a Utopia or ZW monster that might see some type of meta potential in the future. Now, one of the main reasons why I call out this Rank Up Magic card is largely because of these two cards, because these cards can search into that Rank Up Magic Zexal Force card. So Zexal Construction is basically a searcher where you can search it, which is a card you can put in your main deck, but ZW Dragonic Halberd can actually search a Zexal card directly from your deck to your hand. Here are some other just random cards that I feel could be used in most decks. Probably gonna butcher this one. It's Ba-Ar-Tia, Sky Piercer of the Light. If your opponent is able to search a card from their deck to their hand, you can tribute summon this card during your opponent's turn, and if you do that, your opponent has to banish as many cards that is in their hand, shuffle their entire hand into their deck, and then grab those cards that were banished and put them in your hand. I don't really know how I feel about this card. Basically makes your opponent have to completely reset their hand. So maybe if your opponent is kind of searching cards from their deck and building up a certain hand, and then you're just going and messing that up, that could deter your opponent, maybe depending on the deck. So I wanted to call this one out. Dark Honest, basically it's honest, but for dark monsters. I don't really know how good this is in today's meta. I really don't think it's that good at all, really, in terms of just how our meta currently plays, but something to call out. Next is probably one of the most interesting cards that I could see entering different meta formats depending on the meta, which is Book of Lunar Eclipse. This card is getting a lot of talk within the Yu-Gi-Oh community. Basically, it's a Twin Twisters Book of Moon merged together. So you activate Book of Lunar Eclipse, discard a card, and then you must set two monsters on the field face down. Now, what I don't like about this card is that it has to be two. It's not up to two. That can be kind of limiting if your opponent only has one monster. So you're gonna have to make sure you get a monster on the field in order to actually be able to use this card. But it is a very good card, being able to put multiple monsters face down. This is Secret Hot Springs of the Far East, which is a field spell. Basically, if it's on the field, depending on which opponent's turn it is during main phase 2, the opponent cannot negate the normal summon or special summon of monsters during the turn player's turn. Also, the activation of spell or trap cards and monster effects that includes the effect of special summoning monsters. Also, their set spells and traps cannot be targeted by or destroyed by your opponent. So this can be used by both players, which is a little odd. Maybe depending on the type of deck, this card could make sense. Next, just really quickly, Scrap Raptor. It's a very good combo facilitator. This could be used in decks like Orcus. Very well could be used in decks like Dinosaur, especially being a dinosaur monster. And also, it's a tuner. Next is Dray Crown of Mysterion, which can be used as another super poly target. Requires one spellcaster monster and one dragon monster. It's got kind of an odd effect. Probably the main effect is that you can target one other special summon monster, banish it, and all monsters on the field with the same original type as that monster. But the condition to use that effect is that a monster has to be special summoned using its own effect or the activated effect of another monster with the same type. Next is ZW Pegasus Twin Saber. The reason why I'm calling this out as semi-generic free agent is because of a card known as Union Carrier. So if you guys know what Union Carrier does, you can attach a monster from your deck to a monster with the same attribute on your field. This card is a light monster. Union Carrier is a light monster. When this card is equipped to a monster, once per turn, it's not a quick effect. You can negate any monster effect activated on your opponent's field. So it's actually a pretty good card. It's not bad. And again, a good Union Carrier target. I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm trying to be a little more rigorous in these risk analysis moving forward in 2021 and future years. I graded this as a 2.5. I'll be honest. I don't see a lot of cards such as a Forbidden Droplet or a triple tactics talent. I feel Rise of the Duelist is kind of the poster child for a very strong core product within Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't really see anything like that. Maybe the new Book of Lunar Eclipse card, that's really the only thing that I could see entering some meta formats more often and is extremely generic. Although a lot of cards are generic, they're not generic enough for any deck, which means the demand is limited and it really is going to be dependent on what decks are leading a meta format for some of these cards to do well. Next is going to be new archetypes, and from what I could tell, we're only getting one new archetype in this product, which is somewhat rare, Amazement. So these are all the cards that are coming for the Amazement archetype, and these are the top cards that I feel kind of have the most potential to actually be played in an Amazement deck, so we're going to go over these fairly quickly. This is Amazement Administrator, and this card is pretty cool. So you can get it on the field pretty easily. This is a trap card style deck, so if a trap card is activated, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you can target one of those opponent's monsters and equip that opponent's monster with a trap card from your deck, an Amazement trap card. Now, these Amazement trap cards have effects based on if they are equipped to one of your monsters or your opponent's monsters. Amazement Attendant Comica. So when this card is normal summon, you can set one attraction trap card from your deck to the field. And another interesting quick effect is that you can reattach a trap card that is already equipped to a monster on the field and equip it to a different monster on either side of the field, which again, let's go through those trap cards so you can see why that actually matters in this deck. First is Amazement Family Face. This card is basically the crackdown within this strategy. You can take control of an opponent's monster. Next is Amaze Attraction Cyclone Coaster. This card is one of your searchers if it's equipped to an opponent's monster. If it's equipped to one of your monsters, you can target a spell or trap your opponent controls and then send both cards into the graveyard. Next is Rapid Racing. I kind of see this card somewhat as a DD Crow. You can target a card in your opponent's graveyard and shuffle it into their deck. And then we have Horror House, which is your negation. So this card can negate a monster on your opponent's side of the field, or if you equip it to an opponent's monster, you can make that monster go face down. Next, going into the spell cards, this is Amazing Time Ticket. This is a quick play. It is a searcher. You can search an Amazement card from your deck to your hand. But if you activate it during your opponent's turn, you can set an attraction trap directly from your deck to the field, and you can also activate it that turn, which can be very good based on the cards that I just read to you guys. This is the field spell, which is Amazement Precious Park. It allows you to activate an attraction trap card once per turn after setting it that same turn. So you set it, you can activate it, so you can make your trap cards a little bit quicker. And also you can send one of your trap cards to the graveyard and set back to your field one of your attraction trap cards from your banished zone or in your graveyard. All right, so overall, I've seen some play testing for this archetype in its purest form. I've also seen it play tested. I think Lithium did a trap trick strategy, which wasn't actually that bad. But overall, in terms of like actually impacting our meta as a new archetype, I'm calling it a 2.5. I don't think it's going to be making a huge impact. This is the first wave of support. Maybe we'll see some type of extra deck monsters that will be coming in the future, more main deck monsters, I don't know. But I feel this deck just isn't as good considering a lot of other decks that we have in today's meta, such as Eldritch as a trap strategy. This archetype is technically splashable because it doesn't lock you into anything. So we could see some future potential for this archetype down the road, but from what I can see right now, I'm having to score this as a 2.5. Next is going to be legacy support. There is a lot more legacy support as you guys saw during the beginning of this video, but these are what I would see to be maybe the top archetypes getting support that might now be better rogue or even meta strategies because of the support that we're getting, if not meta already, like Drytron. First, let's go over the Utopia, ZS, ZW, Zexal support that we're going to be getting. First, let's go over Dragonic Utopia Ray. This card can be easily special summoned through a lot of the other Utopia extra deck monsters and rank up cards within the strategy. Now, if this card is targeted by a card effect or an attack, you can equip one ZW monster directly from your hand or deck to this card. And it is not limited to your opponent's card effect. It is any card effect. Now, one of the better effects is based on how many ZW monsters are equipped to it. You can detach a monster and negate that many monsters on your opponent's side of the field. Next is one of the main deck monsters, which is ZS Ascend Sage. This card is easily special summonable unwinnable if you have no cards on your side of the field. Now, if this card is used as an Exes material, you can add one rank up magic normal spell card from your deck to your hand. Next is ZS Armed Sage. Very similarly, if you have a level 4 monster on your side of the field, any level 4, you can special summon it. Also, if it is used as a material for an Exes monster, you can add one ZW monster from your deck to your hand, so it's a searcher. Next is Pegasus Twin Saber. I've already talked about this earlier in this video. It's a strong card for negation. It is not a quick effect, but still good nonetheless. And also cards I already talked through earlier in the video, which is Rank Up Magic Zexal Force, Zexal Construction, and Dragonic Halberd, which can search Zexal in addition to Zexal Construction being able to search any of your Zexal cards. Next archetype that I feel is worth discussing is at Ignister, or just Cyberse in general. Cyberse, in my perspective, has always had huge potential as an archetype. There's a lot of support. It's a very big combo deck. You can just throw up monsters on the field very easily. There's a lot of extra deck support. We have actually seen Cyberse compete and top in the OCG, and we do have a very different meta format in the TCG, but sometimes we can see very similar decks leading in the OCG and the TCG as well. So let's go over Dark Infant at Ignister. Anytime you are getting a Link 1 monster, that is always very good. This card requires one non-Link at Ignister monster. You search Ignister Island directly from your deck to your hand, which is very necessary to play in an at Ignister strategy. It's the field spell within the archetype. You can easily move this card into a monster zone so that you can special summon your Link monsters a little bit more easily. Next is When I First Met You. So it's kind of like another Signet Mining, especially within a Cyberse at Ignister deck. Now let's go over Rose Dragon as our next legacy archetype. We've already talked about 3 out of 4 of the cards here on the screen. So let's go ahead and touch on Witch of the Blood Rose. You contribute it and add a Witch of the Black Rose from your deck to your hand, and then you can get a level 3 plant monster from your deck, put it on top of your deck, and then you can special summon that Witch of the Black Rose from your hand to the field. You can also have a little bit of recursion by banishing this card from your graveyard and then adding a Blood Rose Dragon or Black Rose Dragon that is banished or in your graveyard back to your extra deck. So next, which is the only card that we're getting for Drytron support, as if we needed it, is Drytron Mew Beta Fafnir. If this card has material, you can detach material for a ritual summon. As a quick effect, you can detach one material from this card and negate the activation of a spell or trap that is activated by your opponent. Now, you do need to be controlling a machine ritual monster on your field to do that, which is very easy within this archetype. Definitely a very good card. I don't see why you wouldn't want to play this within Drytron. Next is going to be kind of the Spriggan's Fallen Albaz archetype. Fallen Albaz is very bizarre because it kind of seems to fit in a lot of different archetypes. And next is the fusion monster, which is Albion the Stigmata Dragon. Now, the requirements is Fallen of Albaz and a light monster. And what I really like about this card is that on its fusion summon, you can fusion summon a level 8 or lower monster generically by using materials from your hand, field, or graveyard. And as if that wasn't enough, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can set one Stigmata spell or trap from your deck to the field. So it gives you another resource onto the field. Next is Spriggan's Merrymaker. So this is a rank 4 Exes monster. So this card can basically let you Foolish Burial a Spriggan's monster from your deck to the graveyard. And one of the new cards that we're getting, which is Spriggan's Brothers, which is a main deck monster within the archetype. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Spriggan's monster in your graveyard to the field in defense position. So overall, for legacy support, I think we're seeing a lot of archetypes that will be even better rogue strategies, such as Utopia, Rose Dragon, or plants in general, and even Cyberse at Ignister. And again, depending on how the meta format shakes up, this is going to be all the way until April of 2021. We don't know what the ban list is going to look like, so some of these decks might actually be very meta relevant and could top in the future. But I did grade this as a 3.5, largely because it doesn't seem like it could make the largest impact currently for today's meta. It leads us to our next metric, which is impact to the meta format. But again, I believe Utopia and at Ignister or Cyberse have more meta potential than they ever did before. This could be the support they needed to be able to get them over the line. And also, Drytron is already a meta relevant strategy. We're only getting one card though to support it, but it is a card that I definitely see being played within Drytron. And also, we're getting a lot of splashable engines. So the Rose Dragon engine feels splashable. splashable to me. The Zexal engine feels splashable, and also Amazement, as I mentioned, it doesn't restrict you to any particular archetype. And also, probably the best true free agent card is Book of Lunar Eclipse. Doesn't seem like it is always going to be a staple in the meta format, but this card definitely has potential. Probably a card that could hold the highest value and can be a good side deck card for future formats. But overall, I had to grade it as a 3. I haven't seen enough playtesting of these cards yet to see how good they'll actually be in the meta, and it feels too early to say because this set is so far out to really know whether or not this is going to impact the meta, so I wanted to take more of a middle approach. Next is going to be collector value. We're going to be getting support for 3 different characters within the anime. We're getting it for Akiza, Yuma, and Ai, and I would say these are kind of fan favorite, but these are definitely not some of the highest fan favorite archetypes or characters. Now, we are going to be getting Starlight rares in this product as we do with all core product, but I would say that all Yu-Gi-Oh product are getting these chased after rarity cards now, so it's not as special as maybe as it used to be, but these cards do add higher level value because they're harder to get. So I think that is worthy to be called out. And also, we're going to be getting a new Light Charmer within this deck as one of the new extra deck monsters. This is one we have not seen yet, and I would imagine this is going to come as a Starlight rare, as most Charmer Link monsters do. Overall, I graded this as a 3.5. I think there is a level of collector value, mostly because of the collector rares that we're going to be getting. I think some of the fan favorite archetypes are good. I don't really know if that's really going to change the value, if there's really that much demand for those character archetypes. Next is going to be reprint ratio selection. Now, as always, we do not want a lot of reprints because reprints dilute value, and this product has no reprints. So to me, that is probably the best score, which is why we had to grade this as a 5, because we're getting brand new cards into the TCG, which means it's the very first of its kind, setting the precedence for what its value is going to be. Next is product value versus cost. MSRP is roughly $11.49 per case, and if you're able to buy through the RDT Patreon, we can get you this product as low as $630 per case. Now, if you're a brick and mortar vendor, usually their cost is roughly like $600, $640. Or if you're buying it online, usually the cost is roughly $690. Now, what really matters for product value is going to be the ratios. Now, assuming there's no short prints, which is not promised, and if you guys want to know the actual ratios, you can check out the RDT Patreon. We give the ratios usually a few days before official product release. But you should be seeing roughly 2.4 of every single secret, 3.4 of every single ultra, 8.3 of every single super, 23 of every single, that should say common, it says rare, but of every single common, and also 0.1 of every single Starlight rare. So overall, I would grade this as a 3.5. Now, you're not promised a play set of all of the secret rares, and that is usually where you're going to get most of the value, depending on how good some of the secret rares are. And I would say I don't anticipate there being a lot of very good secret rares that people are going to be chasing after, unfortunately, at least based on what I'm seeing so far in this product. All right, so our early risk analysis score for Lightning Overdrive came out to a total 64.5%. Now, this is not a strong score, and as I mentioned earlier in this video, I am being a little more strict on the scores for these risk analysis moving forward because I want to be as realistic as possible. And honestly, guys, what's killing the score for me is that it doesn't seem to be hugely meta impactful, at least from what we can tell right now. That can change depending on how the meta shakes up and how people can find ways to splash these engines and do some crazy stuff. But also, I don't see a lot of really good free agent or generic tech meta cards in this product, so cards that can be used in any deck. And again, that almost always determines how well a product performs. You look at cards like Lightning Storm, like Triple Tactics Talent, Forbidden Droplets, all the cards that are very meta impactful that people have to have 3 of in their main or side decks. Those are the cards that are going to be in high demand and highest value, and I unfortunately just don't see that. And also, I don't see any new archetypes that are going to be topping the meta. Again, maybe Amazements might amaze us. And a lot of the legacy support, I don't really see it really pushing them over the line to really take over the meta. Use your own gut and let me know down in the comments below of what you think. Now, things to consider, as I mentioned, the ban list can drastically change what is meta competitive and what is not. Also, we need more play testing. We need more players to really try out some of these cards, try them within different archetypes, archetypes and see how well they perform and see whether or not they're worth playing and if they can top in future metas. And we haven't really been able to see in the OCG yet how well some of these cards have performed, because sometimes that can reflect how well they can do here in the TCG. Not always, but many times it can. Also, things to consider: TCG exclusive. There's roughly 20 cards that we don't know is going to be in this product. There's also the new War Rock theme that's coming, I believe being debuted in Blazing Vortex, and we don't know what support we're going to be getting in this product to make that archetype even better. All right, guys, that is going to end this video. Again, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree, disagree? Do you see any promise with some of the cards that I went over, or maybe cards I didn't talk about? I would love for this product to perform well. I don't want to see another failing product in Yu-Gi-Oh. Guys, if you enjoy investment content on modern Yu-Gi-Oh product, make sure you stop right now and subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. And also, if you want to support this channel to help the YouTube algorithm, stop right now and like this video. Guys, make sure you follow me on my social media accounts if you want to be up to date as to when pre-orders are available for Shipping Shields, which is the cardboard top loader alternative. We'll have those available very soon for you guys. I appreciate you stopping by on this video, and I'll see you on the next video on RogueDuelist Trade.